what we're going to also do, we're just going to kind of go through pretty quickly here because we've got a number of slides that we've taken from both the Uptime Institute's annual data center survey, as well as the AFCOM's State of the Data Center report. And so we're going to go through this pretty quick, but so for instance, the cost of downtime. It's why we have data centers, right? And so banks, insurance companies, healthcare institutions, they're going to have a higher cost of downtime than maybe a warehousing company, right? But so it's all about managing uptime and the actual cost of downtime. It's kind of why we have data centers. The next thing is, this is particularly of note, the Uptime Institute, their annual data center survey. This is their global data center survey. And you'll see in the lower left-hand corner here, currently 2020, 58% of the Uptime Institute's respondents to the data center survey, these are enterprise data center facilities, their own corporate data center facilities, rather than going to a co-location facility, right? Overall, 69% are those owned corporate data centers, whether they're micro data centers or server room closets or corporate data centers. This is fundamentally different than what we really have here in Southern California, where we're a seismic zone 4, we're a high cost of power, right? So we've got a lot of our users here in Southern California are placing their data centers in Phoenix, Arizona, in Las Vegas, or going to co-location facilities here in Southern California. That's not to say that they don't have them, but we have a lot more followers of our chapter who are net end users on the IT side. I've always kind of said above the raised floor versus below the raised floor, right? So that's kind of an illustration of what we're dealing with here in California. Another thing here, the repatriation from public cloud. Well, when we looked at the previous slide, we'll see that public cloud really accounts for just 8% of actual data centers. So for us, it's kind of like, what really is that repatriation? Is that repatriation of that 8%? But I know that the Cyxtera team will talk about some of that repatriation in their presentation here later this afternoon as well. But the number one reason why companies are coming back from public cloud has been that cost issue. Next slide we thought was just relevant was the impact of visibility on cloud. Again, back from that same previous slide, if visibility was accounted for just 1% of the actual decision for people coming back from public cloud, it really is still kind of not as much of an issue illustrated here. But the one thing is of note on this slide is that 73% of users are saying, hey, we don't place mission-critical applications into public cloud, right? We keep that back home or keep that on our own bare metal. The next thing here was talking about average rack densities. I always kind of find it interesting when you see all these studies coming out saying, hey, everything is going high dense, right? Well, I'm a data center broker myself. I help our clients acquire data center capacity. And they're still running their 30 amp 28 volt circuits, typical 5 kW per cabinet. So we do an annual survey every year that we see that really average density for actual deployment of enterprise users is closer to 6 kW per cabinet. One of those providers that we surveyed typically has a pretty high mark. If you back theirs out, it's closer to 5 kW per cabinet. That lines up well with the AFCOM data center survey here in the lower right-hand corner, where their average density 2020 was between 4 to 6 kW per cabinet. Now, if you look at the Uptime Institute's survey, they're saying, well, 44% are between 5 to 9 kW per cabinet. I'm less bullish on that survey because that's a pretty wide range, 5 to 9 kW. I think that sweet spot's real still for corporate users, right about 5 kW per cabinet. We'll hear what Cyxtera has to say during their presentation. Another one here, people are running their servers longer, right? So what's your average refresh cycle for your servers? Well, you can see here that we've extended from 26% to 37%, or I'm sorry, 37% to 26%, but we're actually running hotter now to 5 years. So the question is, by running those servers longer, what impact does that have on potential downtime for end users? Next slide, availability zones. I just found this interesting that, hey, a lot of people thinking you're doing everything from availability zones on an Amazon Web Services, but reality, 52% of companies are backing up their enterprise data center to their colo provider data center facility. And so that really is the majority, but the difference here is the discussion of real time versus nearly real time. Real time means latency, right? So, for example, the round trip latency between Los Angeles and Phoenix, Arizona, depending upon which bandwidth provider you're writing on, that might be 8 to 11 milliseconds round trip. Los Angeles to Vegas and back might be 8 milliseconds round trip. LA to Salt Lake City is about 18. LA to Denver and back is about 27. So we really kind of see that Phoenix, Arizona is one of our major hub markets to help provide services to users who don't already have their data centers here in Southern California. Just a couple of other things, and this will help to tie us back into our first panelist, but professional certifications, right? What are people who are trying to get jobs in the data center sector and the IT arena, what type of certifications are they getting? Well, according to the AFCOM State of the Data Center report from March 2020, 75% of users hold at least one professional certification, with the top two being virtualization, storage, networking, or hardware. That's number one. And then number two being software management, applications, and operations. Next one here, how do you attract young professionals? Again, this is all interesting because this is all pre-pandemic. This is the report that came out actually in March before everything kind of was disrupted. But again, the two top considerations were for attracting young professionals were continuing education, education and training, and then flexible hours and work environments. And the last one before we kind of bring in Di and Kim to talk about recruiting and staffing is personnel needs, right? And so again, this is all pre-pandemic, but these are all just considerations to take into consideration for the staffing and recruiting world. The question ends up being now is here, where do things stand now throughout the pandemic?